Radio KDNA went on the air on December 19, 1979, but its story started a few years earlier when Daniel Roble and Julio Cesar Guerrero traveled to Blaine, Washington, and met Ricardo Garcia.
In Blaine? No, in Linden. It was Linden. Well, Julio and I, we were teaching farm worker radio skills at Michigan State University, WKAR. And when we moved out here in the Northwest, we wanted to set up a similar kind of training program. So we asked a whole lot of people, but the only organization interested was NRO, Ricardo Garcia. So in 1974, we started a project for farm worker youth in Linden.
Our plan was to distribute the programs the trainees produced to radio stations in areas where farm workers lived.
This project created the Northwest Chicano Radio Network, headed by Dan and Julio. Later, we moved operations to Seattle, where 2 new projects were started under the name of Radio Cadena.
I was manager of Radio KRAB when Julio and Dan approached me about using our subcarrier to broadcast programming in Spanish. It was the first time a subcarrier had been used for this purpose, and it seemed feasible. So a studio was set up in our building, an old firehouse on First Hill, and they went on the air in 1975. The only catch was that listeners needed a special radio receiver to hear the station.
We wanted to expand that project throughout the Northwest, but we never had the money to buy, all those receivers. And there was a lot of interest, but we only had 150 receivers in Seattle at the maximum.
In Seattle, we were on the air for 18 hours a day. I know, because my shift was usually 10 of those 18 hours. So by the time KDNA came to the Yakima Valley, we had all the experience we needed. And the other project in Seattle was the first Chicano Spanish-language national news network.
We had one piece of equipment, a tape recorder, and an 800 number. And Latino reporters from around the country would call in and we'd tape their news reports. And then we would edit them and feed them back to about 80 radio stations around the country. It was quite a unique thing at that time.
We were beginning to break the traditional commercial and music format of Spanish-language radio, and we knew we had to get to the Yakima Valley. It's home to a large migrant and seasonal workforce, los trabajadores campesinos, that supports the agricultural industry. We wanted to do the same thing we were doing with KRAB, but not a single radio station was willing to share. So we decided to get our own.
In 1976, we submitted an application to the Federal Communications Commission for a permit to construct a Spanish-language public radio station in the Yakima Valley. With the support of many friends, the permit was granted in 1979. Then, with the help of many volunteers, the work began on the transmitter shack, the tower, and the antenna on Atanum Ridge, and the studios in Granger. On December 19, 1979, at 12 o'clock noon, Julio opened the mic and announced that KDNA was on the air.
This is KDNA Yakima with Studio Transmitter Link WDT 826 in Granger. Buenos días, Radio Cadena está en el aire. Lo invitamos para que disfrute de un día completo de música, información y entretenimiento en compañía de Radio Cadena.
It was a historic moment. Finally, programming to meet the needs and interests of the Spanish-speaking community had arrived.
Comer y la patita, pues qué va a ser, cuando le pidan contestará.
Coman mosquitos.
Una vez más, chiquitines, bienvenidos al Jardín de los Niños, bienvenidos a la alegría aquí del Jardín de los Niños. ¿Y cómo está, señor Reloj?
El Departamento Cultural de Radio Cadena presenta Raíces Culturales, un programa de las obras artísticas de nuestro pueblo.
Levántese tempranito y escuche Amanecer Ranchero de las 6 hasta las 8 de la mañana.
Mujer es un programa de información general que se enfoca en las que componen más de la mitad del total de la población, las mujeres.
Oportunidades de trabajo. Un programa que escucha a través de Radio Cadena en cooperación con el Centro de Entrenamientos en Naro, con información de trabajo.
¿Desea estar más informado sobre las noticias en su área o comunidad? Escuche noticias y comentarios, lunes a viernes a las 12 del mediodía.
Open Line Express is brought to you by KDNA FM every Wednesday from 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. with Gabriel Martinez. Open Line deals with today's youth, their lives, their music, and their problems.
Radio KDNA, Cadena, Spanish for chain or link, was born. Next, we will look at 20 years of programming.